Before I finish shaping out the lure, I'm going to get started on the lip. Normally these riser baits are made with a metal lip at the front. These lips are normally angled upwards as well, which goes against what I normally make, which is a crankbait or a jerkbait or a deep diver or anything that really has a lip on the front. Since the lip has such a unique angle to it that's going upwards, it allows the lure to be able to sink and then also rise to the top and become a topwater lure. A simple way to explain it is as you're pulling in the lure, the water pressure is pushing up on the lip, lifting the lure instead of pushing down on the lip and pushing down the lure. I've never made one of these metal lips before, and I'm kind of just doing it on the fly, so hopefully it ends up pretty good. So I finished up the lip and it's looking pretty good, except it's definitely not durable enough. I don't really have the tools to be able to work with any thicker metal, so I'm just going to be making this out of Lexan polycarbonate like I usually do. So unfortunately the lip won't be as accurate to the actual product as I wanted, but I think the Lexan polycarbonate will definitely be more durable. Now there's all different kinds of riser baits, but the one that I'm trying to recreate actually has this really cool thing built into the gills. I already cut out the mouth there, and I'm going to hollow it out quite a bit. There's going to be a hole that goes from the mouth to behind the gills, and basically that will allow the water to flow through the mouth and then out the gills and create bubbles as it trails through the water. So before I get carving with the gills and sanding, I'm going to drill out those holes and kind of shape out the mouth a little bit better. I plan on clear coating right over these holes, and then when the lure is all done and set with the clear coat, I'm just going to drill right back through those holes. I just finished putting the sealant on it, and you can really see the cherry wood grain look really cool there. I made my first lure with cherry wood a couple videos ago, and the grain just looks really neat. It's really easy to work with, and it's starting to become one of my favorite woods to use. So I've never made one of these lures before, but I assume that you have to put the weight a little bit further back than I normally would for a crankbait or a lure that I want to go down when I crank it. So I'm going to add the weight a little bit further back and then allow the lure to sink kind of with the upwards tilt so that way the lip can work and allow the lure to rise as I pull it in. I'm not sure exactly where I want to put the weight with the lead, so I'm going to use the hot glue gun method to make sure I have the right placement. And for this process, I'm going to put on as much of the hardware as I possibly can while I'm testing it. For this lure, I'm going to be using size 6 treble hooks, so I'm going to make sure that I add those to the bottom eyelets that I have here. And normally I make my own eyelets, but I'm just going to be using the store-bought ones here, and that'll help with the back because I was planning on using one of these propellers too. So before I fully screw in one of these eyelets to the back, I'm going to put the propeller on, and that'll allow a lot of cool action when the lure's all finished up. I moved the weights up a little bit further than where I tested it, but that should allow me to get a better action than what I was going to get with that really heavy backwards lean. So now this will have a better even sink and allow the lip to do more of the work. So that weight is all installed now with a little bit of baking soda and super glue, and I'm going to sand it up a little bit, and then we can get to painting. For this paint scheme, I'm going to try to do a largemouth bass kind of paint scheme. So I'm going to kind of experiment with this. I've been trying to get a better paint scheme that looks more realistic than what I've done in the past with a largemouth bass. I made a replica a couple years ago, and it ended up looking pretty cool. This is just something to put on my shelf, but that paint scheme turned out really cool. So I'm going to do something kind of similar to that, but on a smaller scale. And I'll hopefully add a little bit more details and make it look a little more accurate than what this is even. So that's what I'm gonna try out today, and hopefully it ends up pretty cool. Base coat of white. What I always end up doing with when I'm trying to make a bass paint scheme is whenever I try and make their lateral line that goes across or all the little details, they always come out too strong. So what I'm going to try to do is add that lateral line with my airbrush and then hand paint a couple of details that go across the back as well. And then I'm going to go back over with a very light coat of white just to kind of mute the black, and then I can add some more details with some greens and other colors, and hopefully that'll add a pretty realistic look to it. There it is, covered up a little bit with the white, and I'll probably end up going over that lateral line with some black some more after I add some colors, just make it pop a little bit. But all the other little detail that I added at the top, that you won't notice much at all really once I add the scales and all the other colors as well. Now that I went back over the lateral line there with some more black, I made a couple more spaces there, but since I had that undercoat of the other layer of black that I put on over the lateral line, I think it added a pretty cool kind of realistic look to it. So that is the finished up Japanese riser bait. I really had no idea how this lure would end up working, but I think it turned out really cool. The holes through the gill plates actually made a bunch of bubbles, the propeller spun really well and added good action, and the lip on the front actually allowed the lure to have a pretty cool swaying action on top of the water. I did have a little bit of trouble with the UV clear coat. I have a couple bubbles right there underneath the first gill plate, and then I also have a bubble on the back side here. But overall, nothing too bad, and I'm still getting used to this UV clear coat. This is only my second lure that I've used it on. The other one I made was the cherry wood lure that I made a couple videos ago, so I'll make sure to put that link to the YouTube video down in the description below. But yeah, I think it ended up pretty cool. It was definitely cool to try to change up this lure a little bit to be able to make it out of the products that I have, like the Lexa polycarbonate lip that I have at the front instead of a metal one, and also adding a bass paint scheme when normally these lures don't have a bass paint scheme. Normally they have more of a bait fish or saltwater paint scheme, depending on the kind of lure that you have. Can't wait to try out this lure over the summertime and see how the fish react to them. I'm sure it isn't a lure that they see commonly, so hopefully I'll catch some big fish with it. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.